Okay, it is now 9:30. I would like to call this meeting of the Housing Authority of Travis County to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Jimmy Daver,
Present.
Vice Chair Cheryl Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Wilma Roberts.
Present. We have a quorum.
Item number 2, public forum citizen communication. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak?
Absolutely. Ms. Miranda O'Brien from Boston will speak first.
We're going to limit all comments to 3 minutes. Good morning. When you're ready, yeah.
Good morning, my name is Miranda O'Brien and I'm an organizer with BASTA. This month I began speaking with the tenants of the senior living community Maynardtown Apartments. We were able to speak with 27 of the 32 units. Tenants at Maynardtown expressed concerns over accessibility, pest infestations, communication with management, and not having copies of their most recent lease. Many of these issues were outlined in an email that I sent to board members on May 29th. Today I would like to elaborate on a few specific examples of those ongoing issues. Communication. A couple named Billy and Jackie of Unit 113 recounted that the issues with communication have existed since HATC was managing the property. They told me about the gas leak at Maynardtown a few years ago. While most families were moved to a safe location, their family was overlooked. They were left inhaling gas fumes for several hours until HATC came to their door. Currently, tenants report that it is often difficult to reach managers to report issues. Although tenants had good things to say about maintenance workers, they reported that a Band-Aid approach was being used, which often led to things breaking again. Pest infestations. Cheryl Walden lives in Unit 206. For the past 6 years, she has been dealing with a severe rat infestation in her apartment. She cannot cook in her kitchen and has had her personal property destroyed by the rats. In 2018, the rats chewed through her cable line. HATC is aware of the situation but has not gotten rid of the rats. Cheryl's a retired school bus driver and lives with arthritis, asthma, nerve damage in her legs, and reduced eyesight. Cheryl asks the board to speak with Carlton management to find a permanent solution to her pet infestation and to address other repair issues that have not been adequately dealt with. Accessibility issues. Regina Walson lives in Unit 112. Regina has an amputated leg and uses a wheelchair to move around. Her ground floor apartment is mostly accessible with the exception of her bathroom. Because her hallway is too narrow for her chair, every time she went to use the restroom, her chair ran into her door. When she told maintenance about it, their solution was to remove her door. Currently, her bathroom has no door and she has no privacy when using the bathroom. When inside her bathroom, it is not accessible for her to transfer from her chair to her toilet seat. She currently has to lift and hop on her leg to use the bathroom. Regina is requesting that Carlton widen her door frame to accommodate her chair, reinstall a door that will allow for privacy for the bathroom, and to install a new toilet that is accessible to her. Yesterday, residents informed us that Carlton management held a meeting for tenants to introduce the new property manager and to discuss current issues they were experiencing. Many tenants are excited about this new manager and have hope for their issues getting addressed. While this is a great first step, you can see from the examples that I have shared that much needs to be done to rectify the problems at Maynardtown. Today I ask that you use your powers as board members to hold HATC accountable in working with Carlton to address the outstanding issues from their time managing the property as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next you have Gabby Garcia from Boston.
Yes. Good morning.
Morning.
Whenever you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Gabby Garcia. I'm an organizer with BASTA, and I've been working with tenants at various HATC properties for the past several months. I'm here to relay some issues about tenants that tenants at Maynardtown wanted us to share with the board. Elvira Gonzalez asked me to share her story. She lives in Unit 216 and has been a resident of Maynardtown for 4 years. She was moved into this unit after requesting a transfer from a 2-story unit because she could not go up and down the stairs. Prior to being moved, Elvira was told that her rent would go down when she moved to the new apartment because her finances had decreased and disability was her only source of income. She expected to pay about $150 less. When the apartment transfer went through, she was working with Carla from Carlton Management to re-sign the lease. She signed a new lease electronically, but it was not clear what she was signing. She asked for a paper copy, but was told by Carla that everything is online. She felt uncomfortable but went through with the process because she needed the one-story apartment. Afterwards, Carla told her that her rent was going to go up because Carlton was no longer basing rent on income. She also told Elvira that she would need to pay another deposit for this new unit. Elvira asked what had happened to the original deposit, and Carla told her that the previous management company had taken that deposit, and so she was required to pay a new one. Elvira felt that this didn't make sense, but she paid the money anyway. She confided to me that her entire disability check goes toward rent and her electric bill. In the end, she has about $10 or $20 left, and she relies on her children or has to go to food pantries in order to get food. She asked me to share her story and wants help getting her income adjusted and figuring out what happened to her deposit. I spoke with 2 other residents who had similar stories to Elvira. Their entire income comes from their disability check, and then they told me that after paying rent, they have very little left to live on. One other person also said that they have to go to food pantries in order to supplement their food, and all of them don't have copies of their lease. Although Elvira is optimistic about the new manager, her experience and the experiences of her neighbors shine a light on the issues at Maynardtown. Seniors who live there shouldn't have to rely on food pantries in order to be able to pay their rent or have to choose between buying medication or having a roof over their head. All residents should have physical copies of their leases, and there should be transparency about how HATC calculates the rent amount and adjustments based on income. And so we ask you to help correct these issues. We've seen how your involvement has changed things. I just got a text from Christina, who was here at the last meeting. She finally moved into her apartment last week. It wasn't easy, but she's in and she's very thankful to you all. So we've seen that when you all get involved, there are changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to item 3, consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the May 9th, 2024 regular meeting.
I move that we approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are passed. 4, no action items. 5, discussion items, potential partnership with Travis County CDBG office. Patrick.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce Monique Coleman, and she has been, she one is our liaison with Travis County, so she's not unfamiliar to you all, but she's going to talk to us about an opportunity that we have to potentially partner to look at options for our PHA family that might be mutually beneficial for both the county and for us. So I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to allow her to go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. Okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to do this because I can't look over my shoulder. Perhaps I can.
Yeah, you can turn sideways and look
Okay.
the way.
That'll actually, you know what? If you put that back and just, yeah, there you go. Here. Okay. Good morning.
morning.
Monique Coleman, Supportive Housing Division Director for Travis County. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Patrick, for the introduction. I've really enjoyed collaborating with Patrick on several things, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you all about the Home Investment Partnership Program. You can change the slide for me. So a little bit about the program. Travis County has been an entitlement community since 2006. We currently only receive CDBG funds, which is the Community Development Block Grant Funds. In 18 years, we've never been a recipient of Home Investment Partnership Funds. I'm thrilled that we have this opportunity because when you are a recipient of home funds, you have a chance to do new home construction, affordable housing construction, as well as equity investments such as providing down payment assistance and affordability gap assistance. So let's see, where am I? For the first time, okay, I already talked about that, in 2024, we have an opportunity to be, thank you.
We have an extra copy.
Thank you. It'll be a little bit easier for me to
Sure,
follow
sure.
if I can have something in front of me. you. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, this is gonna go a lot smoother now.
It was going pretty well at first, so no
Wonderful.
worries. No
Thank
worries.
you. 2024 is our first time to be a home participating jurisdiction. Travis County is slated to receive $426,704 in home investment partnership funds. And of course, we can set aside 10% of those funds for admin and planning. We are also required to do a 25% match, and we are looking for a non-federal source to do that match. Let's see.
So explain the match. What do you mean by that?
So when you receive home funds, you have, for the first year, we have to meet a $500,000 threshold. And we are looking to receive those additional funds from TDHCA. But outside of that, we have to provide 25% of the funds for us to be an eligible home recipient.
So the funds would come from,
Well,
HATC
we're looking for a partnership.
okay.
Yeah, we're looking for a partnership. So on the notice of funds, I noted that we received our notice on April the 4th, and I don't need to really go into that detail. So let me talk a little bit about the prerequisite requirements. I noted that we have a $500,000 threshold. I also noted that we have a requirement to have our gap funding met. That's also not relevant for this discussion, but it's just information that I wanted to provide. And then I noted that there's a 25% match contribution. And we have some other prerequisite things that we have to do. One of those prerequisite things is we have to add home into our con plan and action plan, and we have to write policies and procedures, which I'm currently working on. Excuse me just for a second. Let me get my full. Sorry.
Do you have a specific project that you want to earmark this money for?
Great question. Currently, no.
No, okay.
So let me talk a little bit about the match contribution. So if we anticipate $426,704 and TDHCA contributes $73,296, then that would bring us up to our $500,000 threshold. After that, we would set aside 10% for admin and planning, and the remaining funds would be $450,000, and 25% of that would be $112,500. So we don't currently have an anticipated project, but let me talk a little bit about what we are conceptually planning to do, okay? So there are a few things. The first one is new affordable housing construction. The second one is down payment assistance, and the third is affordability gap assistance. So new home construction would be first-time home buyers that would have to be at or below 60% AMI. And if the construction amount is based upon, the construction amount, of course, would have to be based upon mortgage affordability. And the funds may be used for construction and affordability gap if needed. So the second option would be down payment assistance for home buyers who are at or below 60% AMI. The amount to be determined, but it will have to have a cap. So we don't know right now what our amount would be. Sorry, I'm a little hot.
That's okay.
For the down payment assistance, seeking to partner with an entity or a housing counseling program to develop a pipeline to homeownership for low-income housing. And then for the affordability gap assistance, it's the same thing. That affordability gap assistance is to close the gap of affordability on the purchase price of a home. And the amount is to be determined, but it will have a cap. And the house must be purchased in Travis County. So I want to talk a little bit about the down payment assistance and about the affordability gap assistance. So this is really where I see a partnership between HATC and the CDBG office really being, I think, impactful. So in the event that we go through our con plan process, which we're currently working on, we're able to get all of our funding in place, we're able to structure our program properly. What I would envision would be a partnership that would allow for a pipeline of residents that are seeking to be first-time home buyers. And in the event that that comes to fruition, then if you have a homeowner or a potential homeowner who's looking to buy a home, then if they meet the 60% AMI, they could receive a down payment assistance or affordability gap assistance. So let me give you an example. If you have a homeowner who can only afford $225,000, or they can only afford $200,000, but the home is appraised at $275,000, then these funds could be utilized to close that affordability gap. That would be considered an equity investment, which the home investment partnership funds can fund. So that would be a great opportunity. And so let me go to procedures and logistics.
Monique, if I may, just for a second.
Please.
So as you all know, we are recipients now of FSS program, so we're very excited about that. And one of the traditional components of an FSS program is home ownership as a goal. And so we see this fitting very nicely into the idea of potentially having folks, and we're in the throes of trying to come up with an action plan. But if our focus, say, is educational attainment and home ownership, potentially we could really, ideally really align these so that the potential of that coming to fruition for folks would be really opportunistic in this regard. So
When you say pipeline of residents, does it exist? Is there a list?
That is a great question. I currently do not think that it does.
Okay.
One of the things that I was hoping that I could learn from this partnership is to try to ascertain whether or not we have a community development corporation or a housing counseling agency that perhaps HATC is currently working with that can identify a pipeline of residents and tenants. And I think that that's really the opportunity of the partnership, trying to figure out, do we have tenants that are currently HATC clients that are looking to move into home ownership? And if they are, then that would be an opportunity to establish a pipeline of residents to move from tenancy to home ownership.
So what I'm hearing is if we do have the pipeline, we probably can help about 10 people. Is there a recurring fund of getting additional CDG funds on an annual basis to meet this goal and objective?
Great question.
So
So the answer to that question is yes. Once we become a recipient of home funds, as long as we continue to do our action planning and everything that we're supposed to do, then we are anticipating being a recipient of the funds every year. Yeah.
At varying levels or same amount?
Well, it depends
never
on
know.
the population.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So it depends on the population. So after the first year of us meeting that $500,000 threshold, after that, if it's a formula grant, so our allocation could change.
Okay.
And if our allocation changes, then we have more money to do more with. But then that means that the 25% contribution would change, right?
Right.
So let me I want to say this because I think it's important. I wanted to present this opportunity to the board. We are actually looking at other options internally within Travis County. Whoever turned the air conditioner on, thank you. I just really appreciate that. But we are looking at internal options for us to have our contribution. So in the event the board says, well, we're actually, it may not be a good option for us to consider at this time. Let's say that was the case. We still want to have a partnership because of the effort to move tenants from tenancy to home ownership. So the consideration would be for the contribution, but in the event that the board says, well, we're not going to consider that at this time, we still would like to have a partnership. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are a couple of things that come to mind for me. I know within the TCFC, we had an investor that was looking at doing something similar in terms of building homes, right? Affordable homes. Is there a chance to, I think one of the properties that we reviewed last month.
Yeah, so they're bill for rent is really what you're talking about, and for some of them that is a potential option. That we go from rental, the rental structure to home ownership. So yeah, that potential exists. certainly. And I think one of the things I was going to mention is oftentimes when you're dealing with populations getting ready for home ownership, it does take a couple of years because obviously you've got to be credit worthy and all that kind of stuff. So it may not be like an immediate kind of, you might not see the immediate effects of such, but I mean, sometimes it takes working with them, and that's why I say the FSS program is really good because it helps people, identify their goals, work with them to go through the financial literacy and those things that prep those individuals for homeownership. But yes, there are some possibilities that we have already with partners
Yeah.
out there that we could sort of really align
Merge,
this
yeah, so
program to see that happening because it's challenging, obviously, as you know, with finding housing that's reasonably affordable, for that population and you not be rent or mortgage burdened. So it's going to require a lot of creative thinking to try to figure out how to make that happen. But certainly, obviously, it being a goal
Yeah.
to do that.
Is there a use or lose in the process?
Do you mean use the funds or lose the funds?
Yeah.
So, possibly. Typically, HUD gives us a period of performance where we have a window of time to spend our funds, typically 7 years. I'm still writing the procedures on the home fund, so I think it is the
We
same.
can use it in 7
It-
years.
Yeah,
Well,
it-
Mr. Roberts, that's actually an interesting point. I will say that we are working to be as expeditious as we can, but as we are transitioning from project type to project type, there are times where we are not spending our funds as fast as we would like to. That's a current problem that we're trying to deal with CDBG. So I just want to be transparent with you. And so what that means is we have funds, we're required to meet a requirement called timeliness. And every year, we're only allowed to have 1.5 times of the funds that HUD provides to Travis County for CDBG. When we have more than that, to HUD that says we're not expending our funds fast enough. So we currently have about $2.5 million that we have to spend on home rehab. And then we have maybe $500,000 to $800,000 left over that we have to spend for infrastructure projects. So we've been doing a lot of infrastructure projects in the past, but we're now trying to move to focusing on home rehab, and now that we're receiving these funds, the home new housing construction and affordability investment. So we are anticipating that we'll spend our funds annually, but in the event that we have challenges, it could take us a little longer. So I
Okay.
just want to be transparent with you about that.
Another question, if you have that funds available, can the land cost be included in that 25%, or is it primarily, well, how do you get the eligibility in place? You follow, if I've got a $75,000 lot to put that house on, and as long as we meet the threshold for them to afford it is the maximum. That's what I'm saying.
You know what, that's
County-owned property.
That is a great question. So if it's county-owned property, I would suspect that it would likely be less than that. Is that a fair statement? No, probably not.
Yeah, I think in that case, maybe you would do like maybe a community land trust or so. I mean, I think there's certainly options you could explore if we were to approach it that way. If you're just talking about the percentage of what they could potentially get and what it could be applied to versus construction or versus acquisition, is that what you mean in terms of land? I'm not sure, Monique. I mean, I'm familiar with home too, but I don't know if that's.
So,
It depending on how the policy is written and as it relates to.
that's a good point. So let me say this: when you can make an equity investment into a project, that equity investment could include the land. When you are making that contribution, when I say when you are making that contribution, I'm talking specifically about the home funds. Typically, those funds are transferred to an escrow, and at closing, those funds are contributed to the sale of the home. So that, to me, would be the equity investment, and that could be for the cost of the land or the cost of, to make sure that the contribution for the home purchase is met whether it be from the mortgage loan for the individual or the equity investment from the county.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's what I was hoping for, and if that's the case, we just encourage you to include some of those policies in the procedures and things that you write.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that I'm working on, is to flush that out, because that's a great question, and I actually would expect the commissioners to ask that same question once we establish this. I'm going to probably give the same presentation to them, to the Travis County Commissioners Court, to make sure that they also understand the structure of the program. But that wouldn't have a connection to the 25% contribution. So basically, the 25% contribution would be in addition to the allocation that we receive from HUD. They just require that we have that 25% contribution as a prerequisite for the receipt.
And I'm not questioning that. That's
Okay.
something, if we would do it, I would assume that we would put that, but I just wanted to make sure in the financial structure and final sale and deeding to the property, that's something that we considered.
Yes. Now, this isn't on the slide, but before I go to the next slide, which talks about potential partnership and the benefits of the partnership, I know I need to wrap up because I know you all have something to do, but there is one more thing that's not on the slide that I need to mention, and that is the affordability period. So in the requirements, or in the federal regulations for home investment partnership program, there's a statement about affordability. So in the event that an eligible home buyer or an eligible recipient receives funds from the Home Investment Partnership Program, if they receive more than $40,000, they're required to live in that home for at least 15 years. So there's like a threshold. If you receive X number of dollars, you're only required to meet a 5-year affordability period. If you receive X number of dollars, you're required to meet a 10-year affordability period. If the Home Investment Partnership Funds provides more than $40,000, you have to remain in that home for at least 15 years. If you go beyond, if you move out of the home before that affordability period is up, then that forgivable loan would have to be paid back. So it depreciates in an equal amount over every year. So that's actually something really important that I need to put, but I wanted to point that out. So if a pipeline is created and we're identifying residents that are moving from FSS into homeownership, that would be a really important point to make. If we're going to make that huge equity investment, you have to remain there for the term of the affordability period. Okay, so let me move on. I think I talked a little bit about procedures and logistics. Am I on the procedure? I'm on the partnership slide. Okay. So for the potential partnership and potential benefits of the partnership, so I already talked about the 25% contribution. Travis County is seeking a public-public partnership for this local non-federal contribution. Partnering with HATC may create an opportunity to partner with Big Austin or a local CDC or housing counseling agency and identify clients who, with the right amount of support and assistance, may be ready to move into the pipeline towards homeownership. Travis County must seek a public-private partnership with a CHODO, Community Housing Development Organization, to administer one or more of the components of the county's home program funds. I have not done that yet. I'm working on that as well. I actually think the rules have changed around CHODO. They've changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I need to revisit that. Travis County will oversee the compliance of the home rules and regulations, so Travis County staff will be working closely with the 2 CFR 200 competitively procured CHODO, and again, that may change. And then there may be opportunities for other housing nonprofits to request down payment assistance funds from Travis County that will then be granted from the nonprofit to the first-time homebuyer clients. This will be a capacity building opportunity for other organizations working to become a CHODO. So let me elaborate a little bit on what that means. So if we identify a partner that we're working with, or if an individual homeowner says, I meet this criteria, we're moving from FSS into home ownership, then that would be one opportunity. If another nonprofit affordable housing developer came to Travis County and said, we have 2 homeowners that meet all of your criteria, we would really like to be able to assist them with home ownership, may we receive funding for an equity investment for that homeowner? That last bullet point, the way that I intend to write the guidelines, would allow for us to be able to provide those funds as well. So it wouldn't just be one organization that we could work with, it could be multiple, and we want to structure it that way. So we're creating an opportunity for a variety of nonprofits to learn how to facilitate equity investments. Because I'm not really sure if do you know if the city's home program does something similar?
They do.
Okay, great.
Is there an opportunity for a developer to do this on their own, should they choose to do so? And possibly a nonprofit developer?
Do you mean a nonprofit developer to ask for equity investments?
Yes, to do this, work with this program. Trying to think out of the box, because, you gotta buy the land, that person has.
I think they have to be a Chodo or some equivalent. They can't be a, it can't be a,
Just a plain
it'd have
that's
to be
looking
a nonprofit.
Well, he said nonprofit developer, so I was just trying
Oh,
to
a
think of a
nonprofit developer?
Yeah.
Does that exist?
I think,
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
Well,
Oxymoron.
I'm thinking about, there, I know of some churches in the.
Yeah, I think if they're a
triangle
church,
area
I think they have to be a
That has
church.
done something similar to that, and that's what I'm thinking about.
I would say probably, possibly, depending upon the nature of the relationship. I don't want to commit to something that I know I may have to
I'm
backtrack.
just running through my head and seeing where all this fits in.
So let's, so what are you looking for from us now to confirm whether we're interested, or what is your ask?
Great question. My ask is, I think today, just consideration, not approval.
Right.
I wanted to explain to you all what I was trying to accomplish, hoping that you would be interested in a partnership. I know that there's more to consider, and perhaps once I flesh out the program, have the policies and procedures intact, know exactly what we're going to do, not have potential projects, and I run this by the Commissioner's Court, maybe at that time I could come back and have a specific ask, but today was really just to introduce the idea and the concept, because I had talked to Patrick about it as soon as I received the notice in April. I was bouncing. I was like, oh my God, we're getting home funds, because Williamson County receives home funds, and I didn't understand why Travis County didn't receive home funds. The opportunity to be able to build affordable housing and help with the equity investment is huge. Down payment assistance is the biggest barrier to home ownership for affordable first-time home buyers.
Okay.
So to have this money and to be able to make that investment is tremendous. So today, just conversation on the topic, and then hopefully in the future, a potential partnerip.
I think you can consider us interested.
Wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
so happy.
The man is open.
Yes.
That's great. I really appreciate that. That's actually the end of my presentation. Do you all have any other questions about CDBG or about home? No?
No, thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
Really?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love the idea.
Thank you.
Okay, 5B, Carson Creek, Carlos.
Hi, good morning, board members. HATC staff and Carlton staff continue going to property, meeting with residents, addressing immediate needs and concerns. All of the work orders up to date have been all completed, that have been submitted by the residents as well. A meeting with both the relocation team as well as with the contractor has been established. We've established actual clear expectations of what's expected on the project. Although we are facing a small hiccup with some of the Section 8 voucher holders, our tenants, they have a different process for the temporary relocation. We are working with the other housing authority of the city of Austin so that we can find an immediate solution to this. That way we can relocate all of our tenants all at once and get this project done as soon as possible, so we can get this resolved. I actually brought Mike Eddins. He is part of the relocation team with CBR. He will be speaking to you guys, giving you guys a bit of background information on that as well.
Okay, great. He's online?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Good morning, board. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me attend today. My name is Mike Edens. I'm with CVR Associates. If you don't know, CVR is a national consulting firm. We do a variety of things in the affordable housing space. I particularly work a lot on the relocation side, and we've had several successful relocation projects throughout the country, as well as in Texas and within Travis County. So we're excited to work with you guys on this project. One of the things, well, a couple of things that we've been working through is getting a moving company on board so that they're prepped and ready to go for when we start the process. Shortly in the next, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll start meeting with residents to go through a survey process, right? Relocation is oftentimes dictated by the needs of the residents. And so one of the most important things that we'll do at the onset of the project is meet with the residents, discuss what their temporary relocation needs are going to be, and then work to find available housing temporarily for those residents as the work is being done in their current units. And then at the completion, bring them back working in unison with the contractor to make sure we minimize any potential delays in getting the rehab done, as well as making sure that the residents are taken care of as it relates to their temporary relocation from the project. So that's really kind of a big picture idea of what we're doing. Kind of our next step is to move forward with meeting with all of the residents, understanding what their needs are while they're temporarily off-site to allow for the rehab to take place, make sure we're locating housing for them to temporarily stay in until the work is done.
Okay.
So my question is, I want to make sure that I'm clear in understanding the process. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So my question is this. My understanding initially was that everyone was going to move out at the same time, and then all of the units would be worked on. Given that we have issues with those tenants who are tied to HUD, do we now have, is there a way that we can actually stage this so that it's not all at one time? And, you know, can we work on those units where tenants are not, you know, tied to HUD at all?
So we are exploring all of those options so that we can proceed with construction so that we don't necessarily have those delays happening, right? So once, and I'm sure I'll receive clarification more on that from the other housing authority as far as what the procedures are that we must follow for them. But in the meantime, we'll engage with CVR so that we can go ahead and proceed with the other tenants.
So the short answer is yes. I mean, ideally, mobilization from a construction standpoint, as you are aware, you know, is obviously easier when there's no when there's uninhibited access to the work. But for what it's worth, yes, it'll take some time to move from one location to the next, and ideally it'll be seamless as it relates to the timing relative to those that are a little more challenged related to the relocation. So we'll start on those that obviously we have the ability to go and start. So because even when you think about relocation, we'll be moving, typically moving companies will only move maybe max 2 families a day, so it'll take a little bit of time.
Right.
Yeah, for that to happen.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, my thought was maybe this could be something that's phased instead of, you know, it's done all at one time and all back, because that way, you know, you can get people out of their house and back in their house as quickly as possible, right?
Yes.
So I would suggest that we look at it in a phased approach, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And prioritize who moves out first, second, third, until you get it all done.
Yeah.
Right.
By default, that's the way it actually works. I mean, it actually works that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we make sure that we put in light units or better units, particularly handicapped areas and things of that nature. We don't want to go through any of that
Right, and that's what CVR Mike from highlighted, that we will be meeting with residents so that we can make sure and assess their needs. That way we don't have to relocate them somewhere where they're not going to be comfortable, or it messes with their work schedule, things like that.
Okay. And then one last question that I have, and I'll be done. You know, we've heard before that residents at Carlson Creek say that they're unaware of where we are in this process. What communication have we provided so far so that they know where things are to date and what the anticipated move dates are?
We have actually sent out weekly notices to the residents, and even sometimes give them 2 notices a week depending on any updates that we receive. So all of that has been and will continue to do so.
How do you notify them?
By a letter, we print out a letter and distribute it to each store.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then I'm looking at, you know, one of the things that I'd asked for a while back, and just want to say that, you know, we received it, and that is the list of orders, right? And again, I want to just extend my appreciation to the representatives of BOSTA that's here representing tenants, and going out and talking with tenants and sharing information with us about what it is that, you know, they're saying. So a couple of thoughts that come to mind based on the comments that were made today. One is when you are speaking with these tenants and they are sharing with you things that they need to be done, the question that I would ask is, as you meet with them, is whether or not they have submitted orders. Because, you know, we are asking that a list of those orders be provided so we can just get a feel for what they are and how they are actually being addressed. And so having someone say that, you know, they need this or they need that, if they have not followed the process to request whatever their needs are, how would HATC know? And so it's not, though we appreciate them sharing information with BOSTA, we need them to follow the process of HATC and make sure that those, whatever request it is that they have, that those requests are shared with HATC so that they can be addressed in the proper manner. So I'm looking at the list of orders that have been recorded and submitted, are submitted and recorded by HATC, and really I don't see anything on the list that is that constitutes anything that's related to, that could be related to injury or could be related to severe health issues. So that's what I'm seeing in front of me. And so, you know, if there is a question in my mind in terms of prioritization, if I'm hearing things about, you know, or seeing orders that comes in that says, you know, there's a door that's off the hinge, or I need to have touch-up paint, you know, those are items that will continue to flow in as things that need to be done in some of the units. It's just, it just comes with living in a house. I mean, even if it's your own house, you're gonna have those type of things. But, you know, I am concerned about, you know, if there's something that is specifically related to things that could cause injury or that could cause severe health issues. And so I would say, you know, as we are having discussions about what needs to be repaired and things of that nature, if they're not following the procedures, we'll never know. So, you know, my thing again is to encourage them to follow the procedures, submit the orders, and make sure that that those orders are submitted, and not just submitted, but ask for confirmation. Don't just assume that, because, when you're dealing, this is the era of technology, and believe it or not, technology has faults. It breaks down all the time. You see it every day. And, somebody could attempt to send something and it just not transmit. So if they're looking, saying that they're submitting orders, have them submit the orders and request confirmation that that order has been received and noted. So that would be my take. So I appreciate the list on Carlson Creek, and it looks like there are a number of things that's on the list that is, pretty much everything that I see on the list that I received, it's being addressed. And I appreciate that occurring. All right.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, not unless you guys have any additional questions.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 6, CEO, Executive Director's Report. A, Voucher Programs, Victoria.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm over there.
Yes.
How's everyone this morning?
Good. Thank you.
I'm Victoria Perez.
Yep.
So we are going to be going over the 30-day priorities that Christina has noted, which are to continue our lease efforts. We held our very first voucher orientation on the 29th of May, and it was very successful. And we're going to be doing that every month at the last Wednesday of the month, inviting landlords and then issuing vouchers to our voucher holders that are coming onto the program. And then the end of this month for June, we're going to be closing out our COC grant for the year. And then Christina's going to be working on implementing the plan for MTW to continue those policies for that program and those policies. And then also working on the administrative plans to include the Inspire and HATMA regulations from the training that she went to. And then, so our total vouchers that we had last month were a total of 691, and we were 96% leased up. And then the vouchers that we issued on the 29th of May were about 30 clients that received vouchers. So they are actively searching for homes right now.
So one question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the last meeting, we talked about, it was mentioned that there were some people who had vouchers and they did not know that their vouchers had expired. And they didn't, is everyone up to date in terms of, here's the status of your current voucher? This is when it needs to be renewed, or?
Yes, so when they're, the new clients that are coming onto the program, they are supposed to be updating their information with us if they change addresses or numbers. That way we can contact them via email or phone for when it is time for them to be called for them to receive a voucher. When we process the applications, we send out to the last contact information for them. And if they don't respond within a time frame, then we move on to the next client to give them a voucher. The current clients that are already on the program that have a possibility of losing their vouchers, when they are issued their vouchers to relocate to find new housing, they're given 120 days to locate housing. So within that time frame, they are told and they are aware that they need to contact us if there's extenuating circumstances and need to be extended. Then we will revisit each case at that time. But typically, for the ones that do get terminated, it's because they haven't reached out to us and it's, the voucher's expired already. Yeah. Yep. And then, so yeah, that's basically the update that I have for our program right now. We'll be continuing to call in landlords to try to get more landlords to come in and house to our tenants. Trying to reach out to landlords that haven't participated in the program. That way they can receive some of the incentives that we have for them.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, 6B, Affordable Housing Programs. Carlos.
Hi, good morning. I wanted to highlight a couple of items here that we have completed during last month. Temporary business hours have been established at each of the locations. Eastern Oaks is open every day of the week. Alexander Oaks is open Mondays and Fridays, while Summit Oaks is open Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do have the new property manager now, Christina, here, and she'll speak to you guys here shortly so that she can properly present herself here as well. We have hosted those town hall meetings. She was here for that as well. All of the Carlton management was present at that time, as well as with HACC staff. So we did get a good positive feedback from the residents. We were able to properly communicate with them, give them, gather updated contact information, since from what we've seen, a lot of that seems to change from time to time. So we did gather new contact information from them. We've also opened up the floor to hear any immediate concerns, anything like that, that we can properly address in the near future. We've also, of course, reminded them of the phone numbers, emails, contact information really of who they need to contact, so that any immediate repair that needs to get done gets done in an appropriate time as well. We do plan on actually hosting these meetings a bit more frequently. That way we can actually get better information from the tenants. Again, we're not there 24/7, right? But they are our eyes and ears, and hopefully we can get a better return out of that. Our occupancy actually continues increasing as well throughout the entire portfolio. As of today, I think
91 at Sea Oaks,
we're 91 at Sea Oaks.
and then 83.3 at Sea Red.
Of course, just like you heard. So we are increasing. They are working on applications as well on a daily basis as well. So we are working throughout the wait list as well. We are actually receiving quite a bit of applications for Maynardtown Phase 2, and so we're soon to process those as well.
Yeah. And my concern is our outreach to the residents themselves. We still have people coming to us sharing what they have told them that are not part of your staff and part of the management. And it's a little frustrating that they can't direct their comments, concerns, or issues to you all, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the concern that I have.
So, Mr. Roberts, that's a great segue, because we as executive staff have decided to go and participate in that process a little more robustly. So I'm gonna let Steve just share a little bit. We started that this week and augment the work already being done by Carlton and Carlos and his folks. So.
Thanks, Patrick. Yes, I joined Carlos at Maynardtown on Monday afternoon, and we had basically gathered virtually all the residents that were at the facility that day. Christina from Carlton was already there when we got there. We spent quite a while there on Monday afternoon. I spoke to individual residents, and then as a group spoke to them. I did not hear anything, and I was listening as Christina was taking individual reports of maintenance issues. It was as typical, basic items as you can imagine: shower heads, doorknobs, that kind of thing. Christina has a fantastic rapport already with the residents there. Carlos, I mean, I already knew this, and you probably do too. He has a fantastic rapport with the residents. It was a very positive meeting. It was very, I mean, I feel like everybody felt really good about our presence and what's going on. You know, individually, some of them confided in me. They said, yeah, you know, there was an issue. You know, they're taking care of it. I know that. It's not a big deal. As a matter of fact, they've already fixed it or plan to fix it this week, something like that. So I did not hear anything that was necessarily a negative report. And again, we spent quite a bit of time out there on Monday afternoon, and so there was ample opportunity to.
Yeah, so I find it interesting because I think that, you know, from a Carlson Creek perspective, Jimmy and I had spent quite a bit of time talking to tenants as well, and our experience was similar, right? But, you know, I mean, point in case is I think that you know, what Mr. Roberts says is important, and that's, you know, making sure that we too have a face out there. You can't control what people say and who they talk to and what information, you just can't control it no matter what you do. But the most important thing, I think, is, you know, I believe that everyone in this room cares about what happens outside of this room with the tenants, right? I think we're all vested in that. And if your goal truly is to help the tenants, we want to encourage them that there's a process to be followed, right? And if you follow the process, then your needs would be addressed. And I think that that needs to be the continuous encouragement that everyone in this room uses. I don't think that there's anybody here that's looking to do something to spite anyone that's in any of our properties. We all have a desire to do the right thing by these tenants. And sometimes as we go through the process, we too are bound by rules that we have to follow. And there's an order that we have to do things, and we have to do it the right way. And so that's the message that I would say to everybody here, that if your goal is to help these tenants, we want to help these tenants by making sure that, number one, they understand what the process is and that they follow the process. And then our responsibility from a HATC perspective is, once the process is followed, that we assist and we're persistent in what it is that we do.
Yeah, I would just want to add one thing. I think having a property manager on site and having the residents understand when that property manager is available is critical to them understanding the process. They know when they're there, they can go, they can have their concerns addressed by somebody who's representing, well, auxiliary, but representing us. So having them understand that. I don't know what the prior arrangement was on like property management on site, but I think that will go a long way towards solving some of these end arounds that you're dealing with.
And I appreciate the fact that Steve and Carlos and the others have gone out recently, and we need to continue this process.
Yeah, we're going to be going on a rotation, Steve and I, to do similar things. So
That's great.
that's the plan going forward.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Great.
So continue, Carlos. I think you had.
No, we've heard some of the other issues, right? But we are, as far as accessibility, pest, or contact with management, but we are working towards fixing all of these issues. Like I said, as far as accessibility, we have been placed temporary hours again at the properties themselves. Soon enough, we'll have all of those offices open every single day of the week. That way they have management present at each one of those sites. That way they can contact them directly, rather. As far as Maynardtown, of course, there's no actual office there, but once Maynardtown Phase 2 actually comes up, there will be an office. Somebody will be present there as well. That way they can have immediate contact with them as well. As far as all these pest issues, we are in direct contact with our pest control company. They are actually addressing every single one of those issues as well, and having them come back and just make sure that they come back and check or follow up, basically, so that we can make sure that the pest issue is no longer present. And again, as far as with contact with management, I know that the tenants are quite familiar with just always contacting me directly, but again, so we just kind of constantly remind them of their phone numbers, of who to contact, what the contact information is. So we're just constantly reminding them of that phone number, of those emails, so that they can properly contact management as well.
So I do want to point something out, because this was something that we heard in one of the presentations earlier today, if I recall correctly, that there's the tenant at Maynardtown in apartment 112, that said that they had a door removed due to a wheelchair not fitting. I'm seeing on this report that is complete, right?
Yes.
How do you have an idea of how long ago was that completed?
So the door itself, right? So the issue really is we have to follow now what's called a reasonable accommodation, right? So the issue initially began with her not being able to access um, the bathroom, right? So that part itself was fixed. Now, as far as us widening the door, that has to be an additional step that we would have to follow. Procedures. Now, we do have certain units in place already that meet those accessibility needs, so we would have to look into seeing if we can possibly move or transfer that tenant to that specific unit that has that or that already offers that, because otherwise we would be
Having to do
going in and making adjustments that we probably don't even need to.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my question is, even with that request, was that ever communicated to HATC?
No. I've actually been present myself, and I know this particular tenant myself personally. I talk to her every single time that I go out there. She never mentioned anything like that.
Okay, all right.
The other question is, you say complete, well then, it hasn't been completed. So,
Well,
that's a
the door.
misrepresentation to me.
Understood. So I guess what I wanted to say again was the door itself was removed, right? So we removed that, but again, the entire
Yeah,
process is
but
not
You
complete.
should never put an item in document
Understood.
that says it's something that's complete when it hasn't been.
Understood.
Okay. Anything else, colors?
No, sir.
Okay, real estate development?
We actually have ran into a small hiccup with Blue Bonnet Electric, so we are expecting possibly a 16-week delay. They don't have the current transformer. We've already paid the CIAC fee that they required, so everything's already in progress. FNH Construction is daily contacting them daily, so we can see if we can find an immediate resolution to this, because otherwise we are expecting again a 16-week delay progress on this. Although we are currently at 80% completion overall. In the meantime, though, since they're not able to work with any of the electrical, they are working on cabinets, countertops, unit door locks, the trim, the AC grill, vent caps, and as well as any additional site work, anything that they can do without the transformer, basically.
Okay.
Did you say how many weeks?
I'm sorry?
4 months?
Yeah.
16 weeks sounds
Right,
better,
that's
but,
their,
yeah.
they give us that expectation, right? But although it
That's
may
true.
happen sooner, so we just have to go day by day, and hopefully we can get a resolution to this.
Well, let me just tell y'all this story, right? I have a project that we completed in January, and we were waiting on a transformer. It just came in this past Friday.
Yeah, I understand
So-
that, but those are kind of things you plan for in the process.
So they
No,
require,
because-
the transformer, let
Yeah.
me just say, the transformer, the city of Maynard is taking advantage of new construction and required us to get to a transformer that's much larger than what we are, you know what I mean, that
you need.
for our development.
Yeah.
So it was never identified, you know, up until recently in terms of the size of the transformer. And now all of a sudden we, you know, have to pay additional fee in addition to waiting for
Right.
that to be delivered.
Yeah.
And I just
So
want
that was
to
not
mention
something-
to Wilmer is, you know, you can plan in advance and they tell you that they have it in stock.
Right.
And I mean, it's just manufacturing is, I don't think we've ever caught up from COVID. I'm just saying that it's
I hear
real.
what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I got a project going, and,
Yeah,
you know,
it's real,
It's
so,
16 weeks for that, but we know that before going into construction.
yeah.
That's all. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay,
thanks.
all right. Everything good?
Yes.
I got one other
Yeah,
sure.
question. So I'm looking at the delinquencies from Carlton property,
Mhm.
right? And what I don't understand is what's actually being done to close these delinquents. And I'm assuming this is delinquency in payments, right?
Correct.
Right. So what are we doing to close that? Because they're saying, you know, looking at the report, it says, you know, at Sea Oaks, and this is Alexander and Summit, we have over $100,000 of delinquent payments. And that's probably the most disturbing one. And then Carlson Creek, I think, is running in second place with $42,000. What are we doing to close the gaps in,
So I know Christina just started last week, so, and I do have a couple of representatives here from Carlton. I'll let Kirsten, the regional manager, speak on that.
awesome, thank you.
So these numbers are gonna change. We haven't posted subsidy rents just yet this month. This was
You can come
about,
up front, because I want to make sure that
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is well
you're recorded.
recorded.
So I'm Ben Smith. I'm Director of Compliance for Carlton Management Services. I was going to speak to kind of this delinquency here and any other issues you may have. Currently, the subsidy payments are being reviewed on a monthly basis, so it does hold up the process of being able to get those funds from HUD. I believe in January, for January, they still haven't paid us for that month. I've reached out to them several times. I submitted the signed signature HAT request to them, and I'm still having trouble getting with them. And I have to communicate with DC. I'm not communicating with the local HUD office in Fort Worth, just for that process. So sometimes a lot of this delinquency is from that. A little bit of the other is these residents, they are having trouble understanding how rent is calculated, is what we're finding out. And they constantly want to, voice their opinion. So I'm constantly trying to explain it to them and go through that. And so they're hesitant to pay what they signed,
Gotcha.
the certification that they signed, because they're used to just paying whatever they were paying. So that's been a process that I've been trying to work with residents constantly on to get them to understand this is how it works. I mean, I sit there and I spell it out for them. I teach them how to calculate their own rent. Adjusted, it's a simple math problem, times 30% divided by 12, and then subtract out a utility allowance. That's every time I talk to a resident, that's what I do. So hopefully this number goes down as we work through the process. Research, we got them caught up for the most part. They're coming back around already. As you can see, we've done a lot of move-ins over the time, but it is a process. We knew when we came in July that it was going to take some time to get these assets wherever they need to be. They are getting to where they need to be, I believe, and fortunately I have HUD coming out to next Thursday to do an audit for Summit and Alexander, so we can assess what we've accomplished. So that's all I got. You got anything?
and we are working with programs to help assist our residents as well. So we're gonna provide a list to all of our residents that they can reach out to for help.
Okay, awesome. And then, again, I've heard people say that they don't have a copy of
Their lease.
their lease agreement and,
Well, there's a misunderstanding when it comes, especially to the HUD programs. Once you sign a year lease, you go month to month. And even if you were on a tax credit property and you signed a lease, those leases automatically go month to month. It is right there in the lease. So when even at recertification time, we don't get them to sign a new lease. We just sign them a HUD, like a lease amendment that adjusts their rent. The lease is still in effect.
and they're bound to that for a year.
For the first year of their initial move-in, they're bound to it, right? But after that, they go month to month, and all they have to do is give a 30-day notice. A lot of times in the HUD world, you have to work with these residents so there's not an issue of dual subsidy. So if they decide they want to move, and they give you a 5-day notice, you can't really do anything about it because the next property they're moving into has to create that certification, and you have to create one the day before.
And what about changes in income?
It's the tenant's responsibility to report any changes within 10 days, whether it's family, income, size, or household size or income. They have 10 days to report that.
So I'm just curious. You go to these residents, you explain how their rent is calculated. How do you reconcile all of the delinquency without evictions, or is it just a process where you're working with them to try and get them up to the level of rent they should be paying?
Right, and
without a consequence for non-payment.
Yeah, because I'm taking into
Not that I'm advocating for eviction at all.
No, so what my thought process, and since we took over, is like we don't know, they really didn't have the knowledge. These residents don't have the knowledge of how the program works, right? So I didn't fault them. I'm still not faulting them. Now, once I get them all caught up and everything, and they know what their rent portion is, yes, moving forward, they are going to be held to anything that they are past due.
Okay.
Is where I'm at with that.
Okay.
I'm forgiving anything, but like I said, once it's caught up and they don't report something in 10 days, and here it is 3 months later, well, you bet I'm retroing that all the way back, you know, so they're going to learn over time.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Subra, Finance.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Supra.
So we received our final audit report 2 days ago, and I emailed it to everybody. So that is, last year is closed and that was done, and I will be filing that with HUD. And the financial report for April is included in the board packet. I really don't have anything to highlight, unless you all have specific.
No, I want to commend you on helping us to look good through this audit, and them not having any findings, and that is excellent, right? That's excellent. So
Clean books.
that is, hats off to you, right? HATC's hat is off to you. So thank you for doing such a good job with that.
Yeah. Thank you, Subra. Any other questions for him? Okay. Human Resources, Steve Pegler.
Okay, morning board, and I would like to extend my thanks for your accommodation while I was out for a period. And I'm back in action here. So, so these priorities are not necessarily ranked in order. I would give them equal weight, but what I'm looking at in the next 30 days is creating, we spent a lot of time last year creating, revising, developing internal policies, and I'd intended to do this earlier this year, but obviously was not able to due to absence, but I'm doing going to do an internal training program on the rollout of those policies. Also, we are looking, we had an RFP out for selection of a new legal services provider, or actually possibly multiple legal services providers, depending on the practice focus, whether it's real estate or various aspects of real estate, or contracts or employment law. And so we are nearing the end of that process. We got 6 responses, maybe?
I think it was 5.
5 or, yeah. Really good responses from very qualified law firms. So that's wrapping up. Also, as Patrick had mentioned, we are going to be receiving the FSS grant, which was kind of interesting because we at some point didn't qualify for it, and then we all of a sudden did, and heard back from HUD on that. And I'm heading up the completion of the documents and the I guess basically an application, even though we already have it. Christina is out of town, and I have got to get with her to finish that up, so waiting for her to get back on that. And then finally, and this kind of segues into the foundation report, but Big Austin, we're solidifying our performance expectations for them for the remainder of 2024. And in fact, we actually have a meeting this afternoon at their facility about this very thing. So kind of resetting a few things with them going forward. That's all I got.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
When I read through the the HATC Human Resource Organization Development and Foundation updates, there was mention of doing an ethics training. Do we have, it said mid-2024. Do we have a targeted date of when we are going to try and do something?
I don't think so. We don't have a target date. In the materials that we're working with are still basically in draft form, so we haven't wrapped that up. But we, you know, it's been on the agenda and on our radar for a while. So if you have any suggestions or comments on that,
okay,
that'd be great.
I would like us. I do not want 2024 to end without us having this in place.
Yeah.
Right. So I would love to have something, if we target just working on this through the summer and have something in place, let's say the end of third quarter, which would be like perhaps September timeframe, that would be awesome. You know, because I think this is something that will help all of us. I do not want us to be where we were in 2023.
Right.
So
I see no reason we couldn't do that.
Yeah, so I think we should really set a goal and a target for us to do that. And then the other thing that we talked about, which I think is also imperative, is we talked about amending our bylaws, going through the bylaws, making sure that those bylaws were, you know, that we had things in there that we didn't have in there, and you know, we talked about that. I would like that to also be a target for September.
So that's number 9C. I was going to go through some of that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we can do it now.
Okay.
We can just, you know what, we can just go to it.
Yeah, sure.
Let's just go through because there's nothing in, well, I guess there is.
Okay.
Okay, let's just do item 7, any board committee reports?
No.
No, they are not.
No, sorry.
Okay, item 8, general correspondence, upcoming management occupancy review for Sea Oaks Apartments.
So as you all recall, there was a recommendation of adding new correspondence or general correspondence via the retreat, and so we've done such. So what is included, and it'll evolve as we continue to look for things that we believe are critically important but may not warrant necessary discussing. We have the management and occupancy review, which is what replaces the FAS when you converted from public housing to affordable PBRA. So that Ben, I think, mentioned that HUD will be coming to do the MOR review, management occupancy review, and you got a letter in your packet that showed that they will be coming to perform that. So again, we'll continue to look for additional correspondence that are worthy of you seeing, you know, just for the spirit of transparency as suggested by the facilitators a couple weeks ago. So that's what that is.
Okay. Fine with that. Okay, other. B, other.
We just thought if there's something that came up, we would have just shared, but okay, we're fine.
All right.
But did you not want to talk about that possible environmental?
Yeah, we were going to do a new unfinished business, but I can do it now. So we got approached by an organization that is looking to partner with entities in the community to do an energy performance grant with the Department of Energy. So we are working with them to look at potentially 1 or 2 of our sites, likely Maynardtown. So there's certain criteria or certain things that are eligible, like solar panels, you know, energy efficiency, things of that nature. So we're working with them to put on this joint application to hopefully secure some funds to do some energy upgrades, ideally at least at Maynardtown, we believe. Carson Creek may not, the time frame may not work with that, and obviously we've you know, more than 80% done at Maynard too. So we are working on that application jointly, and Carlos the primary point of contact for that.
Is there a garage, cover gonna be on any of those units there at Maynardtown?
A covered garage?
Cover carporch like thing. I've seen particularly in Mabry and other locations where they put,
Oh, you mean like
panels on
solar
the
panels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's gonna, at least from the so they have the person we're working with has a consultant, and they've going out to the sites and looking at what they think might be qualifying, but I don't think we discussed that. But they're very, versed in what might be eligible, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. New and unfinished business, July board meeting rescheduled.
Yeah, so the July board meeting, if
we had it to
we
be on
follow the
4th.
schedule, will be on July the 4th, which I'm more than willing to come and participate, but we're closed. So we were thinking that maybe July 3rd, or we would move it back, whatever date you guys so choose.
I won't be in town.
Why don't
Okay,
you do it the next
we
week?
envision that,
Can do
maybe
it.
possibly being. in addition.
I won't be in town the next.
Okay,
the
well,
following
that's
week.
July 3rd.
I won't be there on the 8th, yeah. The
So
3rd
July 11th would be obviously the following Thursday, and we certainly could do that. I know that we would need to do a TCFC meeting, and Mr. Plummer won't be available, but I believe we'll have a real estate committee meeting prior to that, so that may or may not necessarily be an issue. But July
I think
11th
July
would be the
11th
obvious.
is fine for me.
Yeah.
I think I'll be here.
Okay, is that the consensus of the group?
I think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
should be back in town by that time.
Okay, July 11th it is.
Okay.
And nobody's taking me, so I guess
No, I'm looking right at you. I asked a question.
I can't go nowhere.
You could I could bring you to my conference.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay, item B, new board member application process update.
Okay, so I did get word, I was just checking with the county
I
to
saw
see
your
what
email.
the status is. May 30th was the deadline, and the deadline has passed. I'm not sure how many applicants we have, because I didn't get a response to that question. They did ask that this is Julie Wheeler with IGR, if we had questions, potential questions of applicants, if you guys can share that, and I'll pass that on to her. You can send those to me if you do.
Do you have a due date?
How about tomorrow afternoon?
So
How about close the business tomorrow, and that way you can send it over the weekend.
Okay.
That way I can have the whole day.
We'll do that.
But the application period is now, it's closed.
Right, they're talking about interview
Interviews.
questions.
Interview.
Interview questions, yeah.
I don't think it'll be until, what, the 18th?
So they're not having a meeting on the 11th. So theoretically, I could give you more time. But I mean, so.
If you could give us to Monday, that would be great.
Okay,
That way
yeah, that's
it'll give
fine,
me a
yeah.
chance to.
And we'll consolidate those and pass those along if you have ideas. I think the memo that we said it could be some of those items, if you recall from that, I can send it back to you. But in terms of their commitment training, I mean, those are things that come to mind.
Yeah.
But certainly whatever you might think of in the interim, and we'll put together a list here internally too. But yes, that's
So by Monday morning?
Monday at noon. How about Monday?
Monday at noon is perfect.
Monday at noon.
Okay, great.
Michaela, send a reminder.
Thank you.
Item C, board retreat recap, discussion of plans for the remainder of 2024. This sounds meaty.
Yeah, so yes and no. So I did reach out to the facilitators to get their feedback on how they thought it went, and things that that particularly came to mind. I think they all suggested, for maybe various reasons, that we entertain some light version of a follow-on when we get the new board members in place. We are working with Ms. Kennedy. We've reached out to her subsequently to talk about the bylaws development. What we are planning here is to come up with a template for what we believe would be a commissioner handbook that would include some of the materials that you have already have access to. I sent you all a bunch of emails earlier this week as I was at the FOTA conference that I thought was good resource material. So we'll have a resource section as well, an appendix with that kind of material, but include bylaws. We talk about, Steve mentioned about ethics. So we want to flush those policies out, and it'll be basically a compendium of policies into one handbook as we develop those and flush those out as you approve those. So that would be the goal. That it's kind of a dynamic kind of process, but the goal is by end of year we'd have something. I mean, or whatever time frame you give me, we'll have something the semblance of what we would consider a handbook for the commissioners that you could reference to include the bylaws, which again, we reached out to Ms. Kennedy. She's doing some traveling, so we would have to nail her down and begin that process of working on the bylaws with her.
All right, so I would give her a target as well.
Yeah, she's busy, but we are going to get with her.
I understand, but I would just say that this is something that we want to have
Sure.
in place by the end of third quarter.
Yeah, Michaela, did she ever give us a, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So she's out of the country or something, but we're working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are working on that, yeah, that was essentially it.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The other thing is, with respect to the strategic plan, there was a recommendation about having performance metrics that sort of, SMART goals, well, not SMART goals, but metrics or indicators. So we're going through the strategic plan. Steve and I will be going through the strategic plan and offering some recommendations about some measurable outcomes, more specifically and more prescriptively, to share that with you all, to get your feedback on what that looks like, and if so, then we'll add that to to the plan document.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd like, after, I guess when you get to a point, again, we're like middle of the year. So
Yes.
if we could do something next month to just give us a feel for what our targets are through the end of the year,
Sure, yeah.
that would be,
We will do. We
that
can
would
do
be great.
That would be great.
So we will give you a schedule of like what that looks like in terms of the deliverables with with a proposed timeline for those. We'll work on that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Awesome. I have one last thing that I wrote down that I wanted to ask about. Big Austin had sent, they do an excellent job of sending out communication messages and notices. So, I mean, there are certain things that they do that I thought that was really good. One of them, which is of interest to me, is the scholarship. And I know that they had advertised that. I circulated it myself. I put it on my personal Facebook page just to see if there was anything. And I saw that there was only one submission. My question is, was that submission honored? Did we give that recipient a scholarship?
Not yet. So we would need to follow up on that. And we're having a meeting. Is it this afternoon? Yeah. Okay.
Right. So
So
what
we
was the
will-
cutoff for the submission of the scholarship?
We've had multiple cutoff dates because we kept extending it.
Okay, so my take is, I would not hold up this one,
Mhm.
Submission to wait on
Yeah.
a bunch of submissions.
But also work with that person that submitted for possibly a national recognition. Look at what they submitted and help, what's the right word? Enhance it.
Embellish their
So,
application.
you can submit it to the national, because I know NARA and FARA.
Yes, National NARA does, and
FARA does also.
Texas NARA does, Southwest NARA does, yes.
But the other thing, I think that's an excellent idea. Excellent idea. I would like HATC to showcase this recipient, because I think people need to see that our foundation is doing something to help young people in the community that's a part of our programs. And so if we could present this person with a big check and have a representative from, Big Austin there, HATC there or whatever, showcase that scholarship on our website. Perhaps that will be the thing that would entice others to apply for the scholarship. But let's not hold, because, the fall semester is right around the corner.
Yes.
And if you have someone that's saying that they've met the qualifications, they're going to a 2-year or 4-year college, right, or university, let's get everything ready, because it takes a while for the universities to process that paperwork.
For both of you all, like I said, state and national NARO and FRADA also provide scholarships too. So if we can help, I know in another organization I work with, when we get recipients to submit, we help them not embellish, but build
just
up
strengthen
their application.
Application, yeah.
And then send it up to national or
Right.
state, and we may get some additional funds.
Yeah, I think that's
Because in these days and time, everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Done.
Duly noted.
All right. 10, is there any reason to go into executive session?
No.
Hearing none. 11, adjournment. Do I have an amendment?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.